And for the first time in my career, I thought, well, this is it. My time is up. I was going to leave the profession. The next moment, I was at the best firm I could ever have been at, and I became the first black senior partner in a top 100 UK law firm.
Hi there, I am Simon Marshall, the founder of the legal marketing agency TBD Marketing, and welcome to my podcast, which is called But Is It Legal? Today, I'm joined by the one and only Trevor Sterling, who's the senior partner of Moore Barlow, and happy enough to say he's a friend, as well as a colleague as well at times as well. Trevor is here today because he regularly ranks in the top 1 or 2 places of our leaders on LinkedIn kind of rankings. And yeah, above and beyond that, I want to hear a bit more about his career and what he's been up to over the years, and share some of his insights as well. He's a fascinating character. So, Trevor, welcome.
It's an absolute pleasure to join you. Thank you for the invitation.
That's wonderful. I'm really excited about today's session. It's going to be brilliant. Before we get going, maybe on the history and things like that as well, please can you tell us a bit about what do you do for a living day to day at the moment? What's the job, day job?
So I suppose 2 main hats really. One, as you've said there in the introduction, I'm the senior partner at Moore Barlow.
Right.
And that's partly an ambassadorial role, but it's also very much a role based on my experience. I like to think of it as being the glue, really. So I'm the person that keeps everything nice and bonded within our practice, making sure that we live by our values and behaviours, and really look to encourage and inspire people to do their best work in the best environment possible. So it's a privilege for me to be the senior partner. But my day-to-day job, really, when I'm on the tools, is being a major trauma lawyer. So I support individuals that suffer injuries through catastrophic events, with a primary focus really on helping them to rebuild their lives and improve the quality of their lives and clinical outcomes, but of course also to secure compensation for them and to make sure they have a very smooth journey to recovery. Part of a fantastic team, major trauma lawyers and serious injury lawyers at Moore Barlow, which I'm very proud of.
Both roles, I assume, have got heaps of empathy kind of in common with each other, as it were. That's what ties together the senior partner role and the role in the major trauma role.
Oozing with empathy. I always say that you make the lawyer does not make you. So as a person or as people, we are obviously caring about each other and empathetic, and that really lends itself to supporting others that have endured serious injuries and life-changing events.
Okay. You seem to like rewind a bit, and I know it's been a couple of years now, but what made you decide to become a lawyer in the first place, or pursue law as a profession?
So in many ways, I didn't choose. Law chose me, really,
Oh, okay.
in a funny way, because I left school having underachieved. So I was 16, 17 years of age. And understandably, my father was somewhat impatient about my getting on the ladder of any kind of career, because I had no real ambition to do any particular type of work other than to get a job. And I went to see a careers advisor who offered me 3 particular options, and I remember them incredibly well. One was a tennis racket stringer.
Right.
I didn't appreciate there was such a thing, but apparently there is. The
Quite a
other was
niche
a
career.
yeah, the other was a warehouseman. And then the third was an outdoor clerk, which was simply delivering legal papers to barristers and to the High Court. And I like the idea of it, because I like the idea of not just being in an office, but being outdoors, as was in the title. And so I decided to opt for that one, and 40-year career has followed since then.
Tell me about those early days then. What did the day job involve doing when you were an outdoor clerk? And forgive me, it is genuinely a little bit before my time, so I don't know enough about that role.
So it's a bit like a glorified postman in many ways. So
Right.
as a 16, 17-year-old, I'd turn up at the office in the morning, and I'd go to my in tray, in which there would be a number of instructions to counsel. Now, back then, you didn't send papers electronically. you had to deliver the legal papers. So the briefs and instructions to counsel would be bound in a red tape. I would put them into my briefcase, and I would make my way to Temple, and I'd pop to all the different barristers' chambers, and I'd pop off their instructions, and I'd also pick up the return papers, and then I'd pop into the High Court. We'd issue applications, interlocutory applications, and I would make sure that they were stamped, and I'd get back to the office, and the solicitors would serve those court summonses onto the defendant solicitors, and there would then be a hearing. And after a period, I had enough experience to actually go in and fight the corner of the solicitor at that application before what is known as a master. And I remember those days very well because it enabled me to cut my teeth in terms of advocacy.
You look back fondly on those times, and you're glad that you came into the profession that way.
It's a harder way to do it because you're really learning from ground up. I mean, at the time, I wouldn't have said that that was the best way. I would have preferred, I think, to have had the academic background and to have gone in at a high level. But actually, looking back now, it was an incredible time because I was exposed to so many lawyers. I got to read their files. I got to improve my grammar, learn my style of writing, and I got to do some advocacy. And although there were some curious aspects, you can imagine a young black kid turning up at the High Court to attend a summons and have to say, "Good morning, Master. I appear on behalf of the claimant." Well, just the very idea of calling somebody a master used to fill me with dread and fear. So there were some strange aspects to it, but overall, it was an incredible way to start, and I went on to legal executive exams, etc. So I wouldn't change it at all.
What would you say from that period is the biggest lesson that you've learned, and what prompted you to learn it?
I suppose looking back now, I had to spend every evening pretty much and weekends and do correspondence courses to qualify.
Mm.
And so I lost many a summer, and I lost many an opportunity to go out and socialize with friends from the age of 17 or 18 to around the age of 25 when I eventually qualified legal executive and then a solicitor at 25. So I think the biggest lesson for me really would have been to have tried to have overcome some of those social challenges I faced at school and to have really, improved my academic foundation so that it would have made it a little bit easier when I entered the workplace.
Yeah, it's interesting. You see a lot of people in the modern era, Trevor, who are working for these incredible salaries for US firms in the city, and I'm always a bit worried about them selling their twenties, as it were. These people, and that's what effectively you're kind of doing. But it doesn't sound like it was too different then for you. If exams had gone differently for you, maybe you'd have had a slightly easier path. But it was yeah, just one of those things that when you're coming through the system at 15, 16, 17, you don't necessarily know the importance of getting those exam results in quite the same way.
Well, sadly, the law has historically been a profession which has really relied very much, too much, on qualifications. And I always say it's about application, not qualification.
Right.
And so the need to, one, have gone to university, then to have really gone preferably to a Russell Group university, then to have got the appropriate level of degree. That was generally the criteria which I'm pleased to say has changed. And I've really worked hard to make sure that the profession doesn't exclude people because they don't have the qualifications. You need diverse routes of entry into the profession. And I think a case in point really is how difficult it was for me to overcome that absence in my CV. For many, many years, even when I qualified as a solicitor, there was a sense of snobbery that I didn't have, that university on my CV. So that's a lot of work has been done to change that. I think that's important.
A managing partner said to me a few years ago that they wouldn't have got a job at their firm that day, and it was the managing partner of the firm as well. And I thought it was quite, as in if they had to apply today, they wouldn't have got a job at that firm as well. And we were trying to work out whether that was an advance or otherwise, really. On is it a sign of quality having improved, or just a sign of them having lost sight of something as well? It's an interesting query, that one as well.
Well, it's a filter. So there are many, many talented people out there
Yeah,
that through their social position in life, haven't been able to achieve what they could have achieved. They've underachieved academically, but they are incredible lawyers. And if law firms take the shortcut route of thinking they're getting the best talent because of their qualification, then they're missing out on tremendous talent capable of great applications. So for me, it's not that important. It's a factor,
mhm,
but there are so many other factors. My journey through childhood, racism, all of those things. That's the biggest lesson. That was the greatest university I could ever have gone to. And I've taken that into my practice now as a lawyer. So to exclude me because I didn't have, a first or a 2-1, and to ignore those other factors which I've overcome would in my view be a mistake. And many firms I think would have not employed the then me, but
yeah.
probably would employ the now me.
Again, another managing partner had said to me that the reason he felt as though Magic Circle had given him a chance was because they had 10 roles and he was the maverick, and so they gave him a chance. And he said if they'd have had 2 roles, they wouldn't have taken him on because you wouldn't buy the maverick if that were the case in two. And I think it's really interesting when we a lot of us self-select out of those systems, or we just don't know how that selection takes place. If you don't come from a background, I'm making an assumption. Did you have lawyers in the family? Did you have anyone like that in the profession at all before you joined it?
I was Not only was I not the first person to go to university, nobody in my family had ever been to university. My parents are part of that Windrush generation, came here in 1959. My dad was a carpenter.
Right.
My mum was a cleaner. So they didn't really have the know-how to get me through that
Yeah.
academic system, and also to enable me to overcome the challenges of being a young person growing up in Britain, given all the politics at that time. So I really had to self-learn. That's in a way what led to my underachievement.
Please, can you tell me a bit about how that's informed your management style and the way that you've kind of treated your teams, maybe the ways that you've paid it forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question, by the way. So I look at the person in a true sense, whether somebody's caring, whether they're determined. I less look at somebody who is simply ambitious, because there is this sense of, with career structures, it's about climbing the ladder. For me, it's not. It's about what you do on each step of the ladder and where your heart lies. So I'm always interested in people's backgrounds, their social backgrounds in particular, so I can understand their journey, I can understand their determination. And I like to recognize that everybody's different, and difference is a strength, not a weakness. I'm not interested in clones, which is why I always contend that diversity is so incredibly important. You bring together all those different experiences, and you get this magic that comes from that, a greater understanding of a wider group of people, which enables you to support more people in an empathetic way.
Lovely. Um, Please, can I ask, and it'd be great to hear some examples, who and what inspires you in the profession?
Who would be those through my career that have been my ladder? So yeah, I always say don't just aspire to climb the ladder, aspire to be the ladder. And I've had some people on my journey that have just been fantastic. They're the kind of people, I always say there's three types of people. There's a type of person that is interested in making sure that their candle is alight. Then there are those that are more focused perhaps on blowing out other people's candles. And then there are those that are focused on lighting other people's candles. And there have been people in through my career that have not just been focused on themselves, but on lighting my candle and helping me. And I can name a couple if you don't mind. Peter
Please.
Carson. Peter Carson, when I was in my 20s, he was a solicitor, and he just encouraged me to keep going with those exams year on year, selflessly encouraged me. Queelan Hurley, who was the chief commercial officer at a previous firm, she's the person that got me round the big table, gave me the sort of know-how and the confidence to be around the big table on the national executive of that company, and also gave me the opportunity to do the media leading work that I did around the Jimmy Savile cases. It was her that said, "You're the person to do the Jamie Paxman Newsnight interview." So those are two people. The what? Well, the law, the legal profession. That's inspired me tremendously. I there isn't a day I don't wake up and feel proud that I'm a lawyer.
Mm.
It's very personal to me, and I happen to be at just an incredible law firm that's given me wings, and I work in an incredible team that encourage me all the time to fly. So I would say that really has inspired me to go on and keep going, keep doing what I'm doing. I get great inspiration from the response to it and the encouragement of other people coming into the profession, believing that no matter what their background, they can make it in law.
You get lots of young people kind of approaching you directly, asking for your advice about how to get into the law.
I get lots of young people asking me, and through different social media platforms. I mean, I'm deliberately out there. I think people believe they can be what they can see, and recently, bizarrely, notwithstanding my age, I started a TikTok page. So, and I started that a few weeks ago, and within those few weeks, I've already amassed a couple thousand followers, probably 100,000 or so likes. I get questions coming in from all sorts of people, and it's just really a diary. It gives people an insight of my professional life, but in a sort of personal way. And it makes people realise that there's nothing extraordinary about me. I'm just an ordinary guy from Mitcham, South London. But ordinary people can achieve the extraordinary, and I'm absolutely loving it. And the demographics for that, you can imagine, are people in their 20s.
Mm.
In fact, it
Younger.
was a year 12 that messaged me yesterday and saying she loved my posts, and it gives her inspiration right up to people into their 40s looking at the data. So I'm absolutely loving that.
One of the things that I've always enjoyed about your posts, and this is before I even began to compile the kind of report on the leaders, was I think you do quite a lot of parenting out loud. I love seeing what you're doing with your boy and your youngster as well. You and her in the car at times and having your conversation as well. And I think that's inspired me to do more of that kind of dad life posting and parenting out loud. I think we need to see more of that, right, in modern life. I think that it's a very it was intentional on my behalf, right? But I'd seen that you did it, and I thought I want a piece of that. And then
Yeah,
this woman who runs the social media accounts for Nike called Sammy Unrao, who's in the States, and she had set a challenge for more dads to kind of parent out loud this year, and I thought I'm going to do that as well. And so, yeah, what's any thoughts on that front? Because that's less about being a lawyer, a professional, really, but it's about representing, what it's like to be a dad and a modern dad. Any thoughts on that?
yeah. I mean, two things really. I mean, I started doing these Sterling carpools, which was me actually doing. Been doing them for a few years now,
Mhm.
and it's me in the car doing the school run, having these humorous conversations with my kids. My kids love them. And the motivation for doing them was the idea that, first of all, dads do the school run, or ought to do the school
Yeah,
run. And it was me. It's usually me being a sort of fairly grumpy dad, and so it's not me being the perfect dad doing the school run.
yeah.
And that was motivated by the idea. Look, first of all, dads and mums, we share parenting, and that should be reflected visibly. Secondly, I think from a cultural point of view, there can be a stereotype about absent black fathers. So for me, there's a important message as well. Here am I, very present and very proud as a father. And I think the other thing, just more generally, is that the ability to go out and do what I do is part of a team effort, and that team effort is team family. And so I think it's important to allow them to be part of my journey. And my son Rocco did work experience with me last week.
I
And he said
saw
to
the
me,
post about it.
yeah,
I mean, what a handsome devil, right? He looked brilliant in his suit, didn't he? And then, and I thought But there was a lovely photo of the two of you. It was, and it really caught my eye, Trevor, because it's like intriguing, like seeing the two of you stood there with each other, intergenerational in the family. It really warmed my heart when I saw that picture.
Well, the irony being that he, at 17, was exactly the age I was when I entered the legal profession. And it touched me. And he said, I'm really proud of you. I'm really proud of what you do. I now know,
Mm.
more about what you do on a day-to-day basis. And I said to him, I'm inspired to do this because it has enabled me to give you opportunities. So it's very much a team effort. Now, I think the other thing around social media now is we've moved away from it being all business. So it can be personal. And there's a difference between personal and private. So I'm not putting out anything that's private,
No.
but it's okay to put out things that are personal because it allows you to see a bit more about me and my values and also to hopefully shape behaviors of other people as well.
I mean, when I think of you in that area, and given what you do in major trauma, and I think that Jen Shipley has got the kind of nearest account in my head for that, where I think it does complement the day job because you've got to show that heaps of empathy. I think both of you do work for families and people who've suffered loss and people who've had some struggles, people who don't feel as though they're always represented as well. And I think that from a marketer's perspective, it's incredibly clever. I think it's authentic on both of your directions, but I think it's no coincidence that it works, right? Because I
Yeah.
think it's about showing up as a real human being.
We like to work with people we can relate to,
Yeah.
and in a business, if people like to instruct people that can relate to them, and they can relate to the person that they instruct, and they too are parents. They too are the grumpy dad doing the school run in the morning,
That's
or the
right.
grumpy mum, whatever. But they do those things too, so they can relate to me doing it. What we don't want as lawyers is to be seen to be aloof,
Yeah.
disconnected. We are part of society and community. We just have the privilege and the knowledge to be able to help people who have suffered, difficulty at a particular time in life.
Yeah, I think there's more to come on that front over the next few years as well. We'll see how it plays out for the lawyers. Maybe if you're in corporate finance, maybe it's not quite the same thing. Maybe if you work for investment banks and you're a blue blood, and that's okay, right? You've got to know your audience. But I think that what you've done in the various different ways in which you represent it is incredibly important to advancing the profession.
Thank you.
A couple of last questions for you. What's the hardest lesson that you've learned over your career?
Oh, wow. It's been a long career. There's been a few hard lessons in there. I guess, losing is not failing.
No.
Um, but on a professional level, I lost a case in the High Court. It was a suicide case, and it was the first of its type since 1957. And when I lost that case, I felt that I'd really let the family down. And it really hit me quite hard. But actually, we regrouped. We went to the Court of Appeal, we won, and went to the House of Lords, and we won, and we changed law. So that loss actually wasn't failing; it was a necessary part of the journey. So that's been a lesson for me. I think the other lesson for me really is that not everybody's going to get you. Not
Mm.
everybody's going to like you. And at a previous firm, which had been acquired, the new incumbents didn't get me. And for the first time in my career, I thought, well, this is it. My time is up. And I actually thought about whether I could carry on in law. And it just goes to show you that you can't always see. You can't see beyond the horizon. You don't necessarily know what's going to come next. You just have to keep on rowing, and when you get there, actually, the sun is still there. It's there. You just couldn't see it before. So I then found myself having taken a different career direction, which I hadn't planned. A headhunter called me, and I found myself on one moment thinking I was going to leave the profession. The next moment, I was at the best firm I could ever have been at, and I became the first black senior partner in a top 100 UK law firm. So the lesson there is, as I say, you don't know what's around the corner, but the fact you mustn't give up. Believe in yourself. Not everybody's going to get you, and that's fine. It's absolutely fine, but keep on believing in yourself.
Those are two wonderful lessons. Thank you for that as well. Um, I know that you've got a big anniversary on the horizon later this year. I hope you don't mind me. I mean, I think you talked about it earlier as well. So, 40 years in the law.
Yeah, 40
Yeah,
years.
amazing, right? Amazing. What would you, after those 40 years, what would you like your legacy to be?
Um, the most important thing for me is that, I say it over and over. It's my mantra. Don't just aspire to climb the ladder, aspire to be the ladder. So my legacy, I hope, has been and will be to be that ladder, to help other people to believe in themselves, no matter what their backgrounds. If you've got the right application, you can break through, and really to leave a profession which is more diverse, which has gives more opportunity to people, no matter what their background, and having people believe that ordinary people can achieve the extraordinary. So I hope that that will be my legacy, and I'm going to set up a charity, the Be the Ladder Foundation, which is going to help young people at school to apply for grants, so that we can make sure that that it's not their financial position that's going to cause them to underachieve. It's not because they're from a socially disadvantaged background. And I'm going to keep on storytelling and getting people to tell stories through the podcast that I do, the You Try It podcast. And that will be my legacy, having been the ladder. That's what I hope.
Well, I for one am glad that you didn't end up stringing rackets or working in a warehouse, Trevor. I think it would have made a material difference to the profession had you not been part of it for the last 40 years. And I'm glad. And I think that just that legacy you leave there with the charity load of the work you're going to do on that is going to be absolutely huge as well. So thank you for everything you've done for us and for the industry as well. And thanks for coming along today and sharing your story as well. It's been a joy. It always is.
Thank you, Simon. It's been a real pleasure and a privilege. Thank you.